what is this structure about? These seem like simple questions, 10 simple questions, and they are simple questions. And it's slightly embarrassing to say that it actually took us quite a long time to figure out that we thought these were the 10 most important questions to ask. And not only these questions, but actually in this order. They're in this order intentionally. Now, why is that? Because the first and most important question is the why does it matter to me question. And a lot is embedded in that. To be a civic agent requires having a strong sense of self and a strong sense of one's purposes. But that question already includes in it too that work of diagnosis, right? I've surveyed my world and I have diagnosed a problem in it, and here's why I care about that problem. And one needs that strong foundation to start, because one will have hard choices to make and one will be buffeted in one's effort to try to pursue that issue. And so that's why we move exactly from that first question, which is about self-knowledge and authenticity and integrity, to the second question about self-protection. How much should I share? What kind of risks should I take for this thing I care about? In other words, there's a project of choosing one's own public persona at the very beginning of civic agency. And it's this combination of knowing oneself, understanding one's commitments, being able to articulate them to others, and assessing the risks that come with public action. So to give an example of how much should I share question, imagine that you are a young person in a rural area and you've decided that you're gay and you want to participate in LGBTQ activism online. But nobody in your rural community knows that you have this identity. Before you get involved, you do need to think about how you want to relate your offline identity to your online identity, because it's very hard to keep these things separate. The truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, they blur together. So from the beginning, before one puts one's first foot forward, one already needs to think through how much should I share, in which context, in which worlds, how do I put those pieces together, right? Now, I didn't say that much about the concept of equity, but I was trying to get to it in talking about the issue of self-interest and the two issues of if one's making a claim about something being in the public good, knowing how to test that claim, test one's own interests, and then the second issue of thinking about the relationship between means and ends, right? And being able to be equitable in one's choice of means as a part of trying to move justice forward. And those issues are captured in this question number 3. How do I make it about more than myself? Okay? This is a way actually to test the place of one's own interests in what one's trying to do. Because if it's really going to link your interests with a bigger public conception of the good, then it has to be about more than just me. I'm not enough on my own to justify an entire change of a world. So this is a simple question that does get people into the space of testing out their own interests and the degree to which they can harmonize with other people's interests. That's the core and most difficult project of democratic life. How on earth we get our diverse, divergent interests to harmonize. Right? Okay, now with those first 3, we've got some elements of equity, we've got some elements of self-protection going, and it's time to move on to efficacy. I know what I want to do, I've thought about my risks, I've started to broaden out my conception to a we, move from I to we. Now how do I get something done, okay? Where do we start? And on our website, where we go through these 10 questions, we offer some resources for thinking about that. A lot of the research in our group has pointed to the need to start with where one's peers already are. So for example, if one's peers are really into fandom in a certain area, like say, take Harry Potter as an example, you can actually tap into that cultural interest in your peers and get them connected to the social justice question you're interested in. And in using that example, I'm invoking the example of a group called the Harry Potter Alliance, which has done exactly that. It's taken the character of Harry Potter that many young people love, and Harry Potter is a fighter for justice, and the young people who started this organization connected those Harry Potter narratives and stories to new pursuits, like fighting for fair trade in terms of the use of chocolate production that's sold in movie theaters where Harry Potter movies are shown. They sort of built out a list of issues that, from their point of view, expand the sort of justice pursuit that Harry Potter himself exemplifies. So it's a kind of counterintuitive idea. You don't have to start on some of the things that you want to do in the formal, official realm of politics. You can go to where your peers are already engaged, already participating, and start there. All right. So you can see that the next few questions continue this issue of efficacy. How do we make it easy and engaging for others to join in? And you can see that they're about building out groups of participants. It's about also drawing on new technologies. How do we get wisdom from crowds? The digital tools we have now do permit us to coordinate and learn at a much higher, more powerful scale than was previously possible. But of course, those tools bring downsides, cyberbullying and the like. That's again where we have to prepare ourselves for being in that adversarial realm, have resilience built up already. And so the last three questions are about the difference between voice and influence. I wanted to say one word on that before wrapping up. So as we are walking through these questions, we're clearly in a realm where we can use these questions to help young people think about their own voice, how to use their voice in politics, or in the world of culture and the ways in which culture impacts justice. But there's a big question always about whether or not what one wants is voice and to express oneself and to be clear about one's own position on things, or whether one wants to influence a particular company or a particular set of political institutions or a particular institution like a university. And that's a question people need to ask for themselves up front. Voice is great. It's very valuable. And so I want to endorse people who decide, for me, what I need to do is express myself and make sure that I've stood up and said what I believe in. But I'm not going to choose to try to turn my voice into influence. Okay, so that's a reasonable position for a person to hold and to take after they've thought about everything they want to do. But if you do want to take voice and turn it into influence, then there's a lot to learn about all the levers to be pulled to bring about change. And that's again where that tactical knowledge about how a bill becomes a law comes in, and tactical knowledge about how to organize a social movement, and tactical knowledge about how to use social media tools to boycott a corporation, for example, or put pressure on a corporation. So again, on our website, we try to provide resources to help people think about that tactical piece, but we just want to make a point that there's a really significant switch point as a young person's civic agency is developing, when they have to think about, is what I care about voice, showing who I am, sharing my story, sharing my commitments, or am I thinking about voice and influence, in which case I need to add that tactical knowledge onto that self-knowledge. All right? So